Can you read this for me? It's very important. The little girl's mother's diary. Change the millionaire CEO forever. Can you read this for me? It's very important. The glass doors of Delaney Industries slid open with a quiet hiss, letting in a burst of city noise before sealing shut again. Inside the towering lobby of steel, glass, and polished stone, people moved like clockwork, heels clicking, phones pressed to ears, briefcases swinging in sync with deadlines. No one noticed the little girl standing quietly near the security desk. She was small, no more than 6, with shoulder-length brown hair and a too large coat that nearly swallowed her frame. A faded pink backpack sagged on her shoulders, and in her gloved hands, she held a small, fabric-bound journal tied with a pale blue ribbon. Her eyes, solemn and older than they should have been, scanned the room before she stepped forward. "Excuse me," she said softly to the receptionist. "Can you please give this to Mr. Lucas?" The receptionist looked up, startled. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Do you have an appointment?" "My mom said it's important," the girl continued. "She can't read it anymore, but Mr. Lucas can." The receptionist hesitated. "Do you know Mr. Lucas's full name?" "Lucas Delaney," she replied. At that name, a few heads turned. Behind the desk, a security guard began walking over, tall, broad-shouldered, earpiece in place. "I'm sorry, miss," he said, crouching down. "You can't just show up asking for the CEO. Where are your parents?" "I came by myself," the girl answered quietly. "I have to give this to him. It's from my mom." "That's not how things work here," the guard muttered. "Come with me, please. You can't be here." He reached to guide her away, but when his hand touched her shoulder, the girl flinched. Her grip tightened on the journal. "Don't touch me," she cried. The guard's face darkened. "That's enough. Let's go." "I just need him to read it," she shouted. "It's really, really important." People in the lobby slowed to glance at the commotion. The receptionist looked unsure. The girl tried to pull away. In the scuffle, the journal slipped from her hands and hit the floor, the ribbon coming loose. "Let go," she cried again. Then a voice, deep, calm, and unmistakably authoritative, cut through the noise. "What's going on here?" Everyone turned. Lucas Delaney stood at the edge of the lobby, a phone in hand, one brow arched in quiet annoyance. He wore a charcoal suit, long coat over one arm. His presence was sharp, composed. People stepped aside without being asked. The girl froze. The guard straightened quickly. "Apologies, sir. This child came in alone, claiming to have something for you. I was escorting her out." Lucas's eyes moved from the guard to the little girl, and stopped. Something flickered behind his gaze. He studied her, her unkempt hair, the slight trembling in her fingers, the way she looked at him like she already knew him. The girl bent down, picked up the journal, and stepped toward him. She held it out with both hands, ribbon trailing loosely from the cover. "Can you read this for me?" she asked, voice soft but steady. "It's very important." Lucas said nothing at first. His gaze dropped to the journal, worn cover, frayed edges, faded lettering written in blue ink. Then he looked back at her. Her eyes were brown, flecked with gold, familiar in a way that made something twist unexpectedly in his chest. He reached out, slowly, and took the journal from her hands. "What's your name?" he asked. "Chloe," she said. "Chloe Anders." The name meant nothing to him, but her eyes didn't. And in that moment, for reasons he could not explain, Lucas Delaney, the man who never let emotion interfere with business, felt the first crack in the walls he had built around his heart. Just a fraction. He looked down at the journal again, then back at her. "I'll read it," he said. Chloe's shoulders sagged in quiet relief. "Thank you," she whispered. And for the first time in years, Lucas Delaney didn't walk away. Lucas sat in his office, the journal open on the desk in front of him. The pale blue ribbon lay to the side, carefully untied and smoothed flat. The handwriting inside was delicate, written in dark ink, though water stains blurred parts of the page. His heart pounded as his fingers hovered above the paper. He exhaled slowly and turned the first page. If Lucas ever sees this, it means I'm not strong enough anymore, but our daughter deserves to know everything." His hand trembled slightly, but his face remained unreadable. The room was quiet, save for the hum of traffic outside the tall windows of Delaney Tower. His eyes moved line by line, absorbing every word, fighting the emotion rising in his throat. The handwriting, it was hers. Samantha Blake. Sam. The name echoed in his mind like a stone hitting still water. She had signed the bottom of the page in her familiar flourish. There was no mistaking it. Her voice, captured in ink. The woman he had once pictured a future with. The woman who had vanished 7 years ago without a word. He closed his eyes. 7 years ago, they had been inseparable. She was wild and radiant, with sun-kissed hair and paint always on her fingers, a mural artist who believed colors could heal. She had pulled him from the dark after his mother died, dragged him into street festivals, rooftop gardens, late-night diners. He had never laughed more. And then she was gone. No warning, no note, no goodbye. He had woken up to an empty apartment, her phone disconnected. It was as if she had never existed. He had never known why. So he buried himself in work, built Delaney Industries, shut every emotional door. Until today. Lucas turned the page. "I kept our daughter safe as long as I could, but I do not have the strength to keep this from you anymore. If you are reading this, then she has found her way to you. Please, take care of her. Love her. She is the best part of both of us." Lucas swallowed hard. His eyes drifted to the window, to the reflection of himself. Older, harder. He barely recognized the man Sam had once loved. A knock on the door broke the silence. He didn't look up. Not now. The knock came again, softer. It was Chloe. She stepped inside, backpack still slung over her shoulders, her small fingers clutching the strap. Lucas stood up slowly. "Is it really from her?" he asked. Chloe nodded. "My mom said you were the only person who ever made her feel safe." He sank back down, staring at the journal. "How long has she been sick?" Chloe bit her lip. "A while. Some days are okay. Some, not really. She sleeps a lot now." Lucas looked back at the journal, the pages trembling in his hand. He turned to the last page she had written, and froze. One line. "Chloe is your daughter." He felt the air vanish from his lungs. The room tilted slightly around him as the words settled. Chloe stood silently, watching him, not afraid, only tired, like someone too young to carry the weight she bore. Lucas closed the journal gently and looked at her. She stared back with eyes flecked in gold. Sam's eyes. His own eyes. "Why did she send you here?" he asked softly. Chloe shrugged. She said, "It was time. That you should know." He leaned back, pressing a hand to his forehead. He wanted to be angry. He wanted answers. But all he felt was something rising inside, something long buried. Hope, fear, a thread of connection that refused to break. His voice came out hoarse. "I need to see her." Lucas sat in silence long after Chloe had left his office. The journal lay closed before him, the pale blue ribbon now resting like a whisper on the desk. His fingers hovered, then reached out and tied it back, slow, precise, almost reverent. The knot was imperfect, but the gesture mattered. He stared at the little bundle as if it were made of glass. It had been years since anything shook him, but this was different. His phone buzzed. He picked it up. "Cancel everything today," he told his assistant. "Postpone the IPO briefing, indefinitely." A pause. "Sir?" "Just do it." He hung up. Then, with trembling hands, he reopened the journal and read it again, page by page, word by word, until the city outside faded into dawn. He read the line about Chloe being his daughter over and over, but the words that haunted him most came near the end. "If Lucas ever sees this, it means I'm not strong enough anymore." She was dying. The woman he had once loved with everything in him was dying, and had sent their daughter to find him. 1,000 questions burned in his chest, but none changed the facts. He reached for his laptop, logged into a secure database, and searched her last known address, insurance records, anything. 30 minutes later, he found a lead, a small cancer treatment facility on the city's outskirts. Private, underfunded, the kind of place people went when they had no other options. Lucas closed the laptop and stood. His gaze fell on the far wall, on the framed sketch above the side table. A rough pencil drawing of two figures under a setting Sunday. One tall, one small. No faces, just outlines, holding hands, waves behind them. Sunset family, she had once called it. He had never taken it down. Even after she left. Even after he convinced himself she had lied. Because a part of him had never stopped wondering why. And now, he knew. Sam had never forgotten. He ran a hand down his face and walked out the door. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fading hope. Beige walls, scuffed floors. Nurses passed him without recognition. He had left the suit behind, dressed in jeans and a sweater. He looked like just another worried relative. At the front desk, he gave her name. The nurse checked the file, then nodded. Room 208. She's resting, but you can go in. His legs felt unsteady as he walked down the hall. With each step, memories returned. Her laughter in alleyways, paint-stained fingers brushing his cheek, napkin sketches over breakfast. He reached the door, paused, then pushed it open. Sam was lying in bed, pale and thin, golden hair dulled by treatment. Her eyes were closed. An IV line trailed from her wrist. Machines beeped quietly beside her. She looked impossibly small. His breath caught. Then, she opened her eyes. There was no surprise in her gaze. Just warmth. Familiarity. She smiled. You read it, didn't you? Her voice was softer than he remembered. Fragile, like the last light of day. Lucas stepped closer, barely able to speak. I did. Sam looked at him, really looked. She found you? He nodded. She did. I'm glad, she whispered. He sat slowly in the chair beside her bed. His hand gripped the journal in his coat pocket like a lifeline. Why didn't you tell me sooner? He asked, voice cracking. Sam closed her eyes briefly, as if the answer cost her more than she had. I tried, so many times, but there was always a reason not to. And then, it just became too late. Lucas said nothing. He just looked at her, at the woman she still was, and the one she had been. And for the first time in 7 years, he realized. He had never stopped loving her. Lucas sat quietly by the hospital bed, the silence between them stretching like a wound neither dared touch. Sam's breathing was shallow but steady, her eyes focused on the faint light beyond the window. Finally, Lucas spoke, his voice low and tense. Why did you leave? Sam did not answer right away. Her fingers traced the edge of the blanket, slow and deliberate, as if buying time. I left, she said finally, because I was lied to. Lucas's brows pulled together. What do you mean? She turned her head toward him, eyes searching his. A week before the proposal, someone showed me messages, screenshots, conversations between you and another woman. They said you had been seeing her behind my back. Lucas stiffened. That's not true. I know that now, she said quietly. But then, I was scared. You were my safe place, Lucas. And suddenly, it felt like the ground vanished. He stood up abruptly, anger and disbelief rising in equal measure. You think I would cheat on you, after everything we had? I did not want to believe it, Sam whispered. But the messages, they looked so real. And the person who showed them to me, she was convincing. Lucas paced the small room, his jaw clenched. Who was it? Sam hesitated. Tina, your assistant. He froze. Tina Rowe? He asked, incredulous. She said she wanted to protect me, that you were just playing me, and I deserved to know the truth before it was too late. Sam paused, eyes brimming, and then I found out I was pregnant. Lucas turned to her slowly, his face pale. You were pregnant, and you did not tell me? I wanted to, she said, her voice cracking. but I could not tell which version of you was real anymore. The man I loved or the man Tina painted. Lucas shook his head, still trying to process it. I would never have walked away from you, or from our child. I know, she said, barely audible. That's why I left, because I did not want you to stay just out of duty. The words hit him like a punch to the chest. I would have stayed out of love, he said, eyes burning. But I never even got the chance. Sam looked away, tears slipping down her cheeks. The door creaked open slightly. Chloe peeked in, having wandered back from the hallway. She had heard everything. Mommy? She said, her voice trembling. Both parents turned. Chloe stepped inside slowly, holding a crumpled tissue in one hand and her stuffed rabbit in the other. You didn't want Daddy to know about me? She asked, her lower lip quivering. Sam's face crumpled. No, baby. It's not like that. Chloe walked up to the bed, tears streaming down her cheeks. I don't want to be a secret anymore. I don't want to be something sad. Lucas knelt beside her and gently took her hand. You are not a secret. You are not sad, he said softly. You are the most beautiful surprise of my life. Chloe looked up at him, still crying. Can we just stop being strangers now? Lucas's throat tightened. He opened his arms, and Chloe collapsed into them, sobbing against his chest. He held her close, his hand resting protectively on her back. I want to know you, he whispered. Forever. Sam watched them through blurred eyes. For the first time in years, something warm pushed through the ache in her chest. A family, a real one. Lucas pulled back slightly to look at Chloe's tear-streaked face. You and I, we have a lot of catching up to do, okay? Chloe nodded, clinging to his shirt. Lucas looked up at Sam. I still don't understand why you believed her, he said quietly, but I know what I felt was real, and I'm not walking away from either of you again. Sam gave a weak but heartfelt smile. Then let me say thank you, even if it is late. He reached across the bed and took her hand. It was frail, but it held on tight. The hum of medical machines was barely audible under the quiet jazz playing from a speaker in the corner. Lucas sat beside Sam's hospital bed, watching as a nurse adjusted her IV. The harsh fluorescent lights made her pale skin seem even more fragile, but Sam smiled as if trying to protect everyone else from the truth. The oncologist's words still rang in Lucas's ears. It's not over. With intensive, personalized care, there is hope. And hope was all Lucas needed. Within days, he had moved Sam and Chloe into his private estate just outside the city, a quiet, sunlit villa surrounded by trees and open sky. The east-facing bedroom was converted into a full medical suite, and a team of 2 live-in nurses rotated shifts. Working alongside an oncologist, Lucas had flown in from out of state. Sam protested at first, insisting she did not want to be a burden. But Lucas only smiled and said, You are not a burden, you are my family. And she had no answer for that, only tears. Chloe adapted faster than anyone expected. At first, she still called Lucas Mr. Lucas, or sometimes just, hey. But one morning, she walked into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes, and mumbled, Daddy, I had a weird dream. Lucas froze. Sam, who was sipping tea nearby, looked up with wide eyes. Neither said a word. But Chloe did not seem to notice. She just climbed into his lap like it had always been that way. From that moment on, she called him Daddy more often. Then, every day. And eventually, without hesitation. One afternoon, when the sun was just beginning to dip behind the pines, Lucas gently helped Sam down a hallway she had not walked in years. Her steps were slow, labored, but she clutched his arm and smiled through the fatigue. He opened the door to a quiet room at the back of the house. Inside, the faint smell of linseed oil still lingered in the air. A dusty easel stood in the corner, covered with a thin cloth. Lucas pulled it off, revealing the half-finished canvas, Sunset Family. Sam stared at it for a long moment. It depicted 2 faceless figures, holding hands on a porch by the sea, bathed in the warm hues of dusk. She had started it 7 years ago. but never finished. Lucas brought out a small canvas stool and a box of brushes. Only if you feel up to it. She sank slowly into the seat, taking a deep breath. Her hands trembled slightly, but when she picked up the brush, the motion felt familiar, like coming home. With soft, delicate strokes, Sam painted a third figure between the two silhouettes. A little girl, golden light surrounding her. Chloe. Lucas stood behind her, watching in silence. The moment felt suspended in time. Sam paused after the final brushstroke and whispered, "3 is all it takes for a sunrise." Lucas blinked, his throat tight. "What?" She looked up at him, smiling faintly. "A mother, a father, and a daughter. That's enough for a new beginning." But as she leaned back in her chair, her face went pale. The brush slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor. "Sam?" Lucas stepped forward. Her eyes fluttered closed. "Sam!" he called again, louder this time. She did not respond. Lucas caught her before she collapsed completely, scooping her frail body into his arms. He could feel how light she had become, like carrying a memory. Chloe came running in from the hallway just in time to see him rushing toward the front door. "Stay with the nurse," Lucas said, breathless. "I'll bring her back, I promise." He cradled Sam close as he burst into the waiting car outside. The driver barely had time to ask questions before Lucas shouted, "Hospital, now!" The villa shrank behind them as the car sped down the road. In his arms, Sam was still. But Lucas kept whispering her name, over and over again, like it could pull her back from the edge. Like love itself could stop time. The steady beeping of the heart monitor was the only sound in the room. Lucas sat in a chair pulled close to Sam's hospital bed. His head rested on his arm beside her, fingers gently wrapped around hers. He had fallen asleep hours ago, still in yesterday's shirt. Sam stirred. Lucas blinked awake, sitting up. Her eyes fluttered open, and for a second, she seemed confused by the sterile white light. Then, she turned her head toward him and smiled, weakly. "You stayed," she whispered. "I never left," he replied, voice rough with exhaustion. The doctors called it a close call, respiratory failure brought on by stress and fatigue. But the new treatment protocol was working. She was stabilizing. At home, Chloe greeted her mom with cautious joy, wrapping small arms around her waist and whispering, "You scared me." "I'm okay now," Sam promised, brushing Chloe's hair back. "Daddy and we're here." And for a few quiet weeks, they were. Together. Lucas rearranged everything, working remotely from the villa. Chloe thrived in the newfound calm. Afternoons were spent painting with Sam, evenings helping Lucas in the kitchen. Her signature was always adding too much pepper. There was laughter again. Lucas learned how Sam liked her tea, how Chloe liked silly voices at bedtime, and how silence didn't mean distance, it meant peace. But peace never lasted. One morning, Lucas walked into the kitchen. Phone in hand, face unreadable. Sam looked up. "What happened?" He placed the phone on the table. The headline read, "Lucas Delaney's Secret Family, CEO, under scrutiny, amid scandal." Sam's hands went cold. The article accused Sam of manipulating Lucas for money, faking her illness, and jeopardizing company stability. Even worse, someone had leaked confidential shareholder data, causing a dip in the stock. Behind it all, Tina Rowe. She had resurfaced at a rival firm and clearly had not moved on. An anonymous tip led investigators to connections between Tina and shell companies tied to the breach. Sam looked stricken. "This is my fault." "No," Lucas said firmly. "This is hers." The board called an emergency meeting. Reporters circled the villa. Shareholders demanded answers. Lucas walked into the press conference alone. He wore a tailored navy suit, pale but unshaken. Flashes went off. Microphones pointed toward him. He raised a hand. The room hushed. "I know there are rumors," he began. "Let me make this clear." He paused. "Her name is Samantha Blake. She is the love of my life, and that little girl is my daughter." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lucas went on, voice steady. "If anyone thinks love is a weakness, or protecting your family makes me unfit to lead, you're welcome to invest elsewhere." He walked off the stage without another word. By week's end, investigators confirmed Tina had orchestrated the breach. She had used old credentials, funneled money through a fake vendor, and manipulated records to smear Sam. Lucas filed charges personally. Tina was arrested for fraud, embezzlement, and data theft. It would take time to undo the damage, but Sam's name was cleared. Back home, Chloe stood on tiptoes, pinning a drawing to the fridge. It showed 3 figures: a man in a suit with a heart on his chest, a woman holding a paintbrush, and a little girl in a cape. In bright crayon, she had written, "Daddy saved us." The courtroom was quiet as the judge's gavel struck once. Tina Rowe stood behind the defense table, face unreadable, as the charges were formally read aloud. Fraud, embezzlement, corporate espionage. Lucas sat in the front row, arms crossed, jaw set. He did not flinch. Justice was not vengeance, but it mattered. When the trial ended, he walked out into the daylight and took a deep breath. This chapter, finally, was closed. That same afternoon, Lucas filed a petition at the family court, officially requesting to adopt Chloe as his legal daughter. The paperwork was thick, but his intent was clear. She deserved his name, his protection, his presence, for life. When the judge asked why, Lucas replied simply, "Because she is mine, and she always has been." A few weeks later, a small celebration took place at the villa. No press, no board members, just family. Chloe twirled around the living room in a new dress, holding the official document in her hands like it was a golden ticket. "Chloe Delaney," she whispered proudly, testing how it felt in her mouth. She giggled. "It sounds like a superhero name." Lucas and Sam watched her from the couch, fingers entwined. "Chloe Delaney," Sam echoed, smiling. "She's earned it." Lucas kissed the back of her hand. "So have you." With Sam regaining strength every day, the family decided it was time to leave the noise behind, time to return to the place where everything had once begun. The beach house. A small, weathered cottage nestled against the cliffs of the coast, its shutters faded but still charming. Lucas had kept it all these years, even when he thought he would never return. Now, it was theirs again. They packed their lives into boxes and drove south, with Chloe riding in the back seat, humming to herself, sketchbook in her lap. When they arrived, the sun was setting, casting golden light across the porch, the sea glittering behind it like a promise. Sam stepped out of the car and took a deep breath of salty air. "It smells like forever." Lucas nodded. "That's because it is." Inside, they began unpacking. Chloe claimed the sunroom as her art studio. Lucas set up a small office in the corner nook. Sam filled the kitchen with warmth and herbs and music. And life, finally, slowed down. One evening, Chloe asked for extra crayons before dinner. She sat quietly on the porch, legs crossed, brow furrowed in concentration. Later, she came running in, holding up a drawing with both hands. "It's done." Lucas took it gently. The picture showed 3 people standing on a beach, holding hands under a deep orange sky. Behind them, the waves, the little house, and a small brown book with a ribbon around it, lying open, as if the story had finally been told. Sam cupped her mouth. "That's beautiful." "It's us," Chloe said proudly. "The Sunset family." That night, after dinner, they gathered outside under a sky full of stars. A small fire crackled in the stone pit, and marshmallows roasted on long sticks. Sam leaned against Lucas, wrapped in his jacket, watching Chloe attempt to toast hers without burning it. "I don't think I've ever been this happy," she whispered. Lucas kissed the top of her head. "Then we'll make sure it stays that way." Chloe finally succeeded, holding up her golden marshmallow like a trophy. "Perfect." They laughed. The waves whispered in the distance, and above them, the stars blinked quietly, like they were watching something sacred unfold. A family, whole again. Not because of the past, not because of fate, but because love had chosen to stay. The sun hung low over the horizon, casting golden light across the waves. The beach was quiet, except for the gentle crash of the tide and the soft rustling of seagrass in the wind. White chairs had been arranged in a small semicircle, facing the water. There were no flower arches, no tuxedos, no string quartets, just a gathering of a few close friends, the ocean breeze, and a promise waiting to be spoken. Sam stood barefoot in the sand, her simple white dress fluttering gently around her ankles. Her blonde curls had been left loose, touched lightly by the salt air. There was no veil, no jewels, just the soft glow in her eyes as she looked at the man waiting for her at the end of the aisle. Lucas stood in rolled-up sleeves and linen pants, his eyes never leaving hers. He looked both like the man he had become and the boy he had once been, waiting for her by the sea all those years ago. Between them walked Chloe, glowing in a pale yellow dress, carrying the weathered journal tied with a familiar ribbon. She clutched it to her chest like a treasure as she led her mother down the aisle. When Sam reached Lucas, Chloe handed her the journal, then stepped aside, wiping a happy tear from her cheek with the back of her hand. Sam opened the book slowly. Her voice trembled, but she spoke clearly. "These are the last words I wrote in this journal," she said softly. "I never thought I'd read them aloud." She looked up at Lucas, her eyes shining. "Love never left me," she read, voice cracking. "I just forgot how to find it. Thank you, Lucas, for helping me remember." There was a hush. Lucas took her hands in his voice steady, full of reverence. "From this day forward," he said, "I promise to never stop reading what your heart writes, because it brought me home." No one moved for a moment. Then, as the breeze lifted the ends of her hair, Sam nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. Chloe rushed forward and hugged them both at once, wrapping her arms around their waists. The officiant smiled and said, the only words left to say, "You may now begin your forever." The kiss was soft, unhurried, a closing, a beginning. As the small group clapped and the waves whispered their approval, Lucas, Sam, and Chloe turned toward the sea. They walked slowly down the beach, hand in hand, three shadows stretching behind them, long and unbroken in the setting. Sunday. The sky blazed orange and pink. The ocean shimmered like it was holding its breath. Chloe let go for a moment to run ahead, twirling in the sand, laughing with pure joy. Lucas pulled Sam close. "We made it," he whispered. She leaned into him, "and we're still here." Behind them, the journal lay open on a small table, pages fluttering in the breeze. Its story had ended. But their new one, full of mornings by the sea, drawings taped to the fridge, piano notes drifting through windows, and marshmallow nights beneath the stars, had only just begun. Far above, the sun dipped below the horizon, and in its warm parting glow a family walked forward, into love, into light, into everything they had once lost, now found again. Thank you for staying with soul-stirring stories until the very last page of this emotional journey. If this story touched your heart, even just a little, if it made you smile, brought a tear to your eye, or reminded you that love, no matter how lost, can always find its way back, then please take a moment to show your support. Hit that subscribe button to never miss another tale of love, healing, and second chances. And don't forget to smash the hype button to help this story reach more hearts around the world. Your support means the world to us, and it keeps the stories flowing. Until next time, stay kind, stay open, and never stop believing in the power of love. We'll see you in the next story.